Welcome back to part 2 of The Guilty Feminist. So plug in and get ready for the fun.
Please welcome to the stage your host, Deborah Frances-White. It's me. Did you have a good interval? Did you enjoy the first half? Are you ready to crack on with the second half? Then please, to open our second half, welcome back to the stage the magnificent Mared.
So I wanted to sing this next song because I think it's become a sort of unofficial anthem for Wales, and it's a song about loving your country, and we all love Cymru, so this is O Gymru. Tir unig gwlad i mi, o fy ngwaliau, ti sy'n llony'n nghalon i, ti
Absolutely stunning. So just before we move on, we have some other candidates in the house. Is Sarah Rees here? Yes! Sarah, Ned, could we have the house lights up just a tiny bit, just in the stalls?
She's at the very back.
Just at the very back. Sarah, great. Just give us a cheer. Where are you the candidate for? Plaid, no. Yes, Plaid and who, but where? Where for? It's my favourite place in Wales. And Kira Marshall? Kira Marshall?
Kira couldn't be here. She's had to go. She had a family emergency.
Oh, is Kira the one with the tiny baby? Yes. So apparently Kira gave birth while being a candidate. Some would say bad planning. But that's how much she loves Wales, because she's prepared to do it with that. Zainab Akbar? Excellent. Zainab, do you mind just... Ned's going to get you the mic. He's going to come round. Do you want to go just round the back? Oh, yeah, just pass it down, maybe. However, this is running seamlessly. I can only imagine if the Senators run this well. There'll be no problems at all. Zainab, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, I heard you'd had some kind of online hate. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm Zainab, I'm standing for Plaid Cymru for Cardiff Fun on Tab. Yes, that is true. So I am a Muslim. I grew up as Muslim in Cardiff. Never experienced any backlash from that until more recently with the rise of reform, as many feel in our communities. I actually deleted all my social media, my personal accounts, a few years ago, but I made an Instagram as a candidate for the election, and I posted a picture recently wishing all my fellow brothers and sisters a happy Eid Mubarak, and I received a lot of hate on that. In the comments, asking if I was brainwashed, why am I supporting such an awful religion, comments about my looks and appearance, direct messages from old men, which were quite vile, and it was really hard. And it was a very different response, I would say, to what I get on the door. When I speak to people who support reform on the door, they're never that bold in what they would say. And I question whether these people are real, whether they're bots, whether they live in my constituency in Wales, in the UK, I don't know. But yeah, so that was quite hard to deal with.
But you're not letting it deter you. You're still standing as a candidate.
Yeah, for that reason. Yeah.
And how can we support you to make sure you win?
Well, we're literally in the middle of the campaign, so honestly, every time we speak to someone, and a different person, whether it's through an event like this and then communicating with our family and friends, or more so speaking to people on their doors, canvassing is the main way that you can convince people to vote for you, more so than you can on social media. And I think that is the downfall with Reform and other parties. They aren't speaking to people in their communities to understand them and about the issues that they're facing. So getting out on the door.
So where are you running?
Cardiff Fun on Tab. So it's Cardiff North and Cardiff East, which is now a super constituency. So yeah, any support, we'd be really grateful.
Could anyone here help Zainab knock on some doors? Has anyone got an hour? 2 hours?
Thank you. We have a group chat where we post all the sessions. So
give us just give us a cheer if you think you would be able to give her an hour on a phone bank or knocking on doors. Great. Okay. How do they join your group chat?
I have a link to the WhatsApp community where sessions are posted daily and weekly. So I can give the link or something.
Zainab, if you could stand up the back at the end, and anyone who wants to join that group could come up and meet you in person, say hi, and give you a hand.
Yeah, I've got leaflets too, so I came prepared.
Great. Zainab's got leaflets. Take a leaflet and help her get in, because she has experienced some hate, but nothing compared to the love she's going to feel tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right. And on that note, as we practically pull together, would you like to see some more stand-up comedy? She is a brilliant comedian and a truly wonderful person. Put your hands together and make incredible woohooing noises for Priya Hall.
Hello, how are we? Are we well? Fantastic. I'm so excited to be here. I'm from the Valleys. Is anyone in from the Valleys? Lads, what are we going to do? Did they silence? Oh, no, I've been silenced. They don't want to hear from the Valleys, you guys. What are we going to do? I gig up and down the UK, right? And I have like a shorthand to explain to people what the Valleys are like, because I think it's quite a distinct culture, and I like to let people know what the vibe is. What I tell people is that the Valleys are like Billy Elliot, but no fuckers dancing. Or I tell them it's like Peaky Blinders, but no one can afford a hat. people who are in from the valleys, can I ask you a question? When the Caerphilly by-election happened, and you heard newsreaders saying the words that the future of politics in the UK rests in the hands of Caerphilly, did you panic? Because I'm from that area, right? I used to go out drinking in Caerphilly as a teenager. In the 2010s, there was a persistent rumour in Caerphilly that the swans were disappearing from Caerphilly Castle Moat because people were eating them. And the future of politics in the UK rests in their hands. I was so panicked during that by-election. I was so nervous. I'll tell you what the feeling was. You know when after a night out, you get in a taxi with all of your pals, and the taxi driver says to you, right, if any of you are sick in this taxi, I'm going to fine you. And you go, nobody will be sick in this taxi. But you know there is a 99% chance that your one friend is going to be sick in the taxi. And you spend the entire drive just side-eyeing her like, don't fucking do it. It was that feeling. But then, the by-election happened. They voted Plaid. The euphoria I felt at the fact that we had made it through the taxi drive without her being sick. From this point onwards, Caerphilly can do whatever it likes. Eat the swans, I don't care. I love being from the valleys. I've got an old valleys nan. Anyone else? I love my old valleys now. My nana's amazing, right? My nana is an old valleys lady. She's very political, my nana. She's very political. Growing up with my nana Sheila was like growing up in a doomsday cult. But the doomsday she was preparing for was the return of a Thatcher government. She'd be like, they'll be back. Was she wrong? No. She got a lot of cool stories as well, my nana has this amazing story. When she was 30 years old, my nana got dragged out of Cardiff Magistrates Court for protesting for Welsh language rights. Very cool, right? But the story goes that as she was getting dragged out of court, the security guard leant down and he whispered in my nana's ear, do us a favour and lose some weight before you come back. Now, he said this to a woman from Aberdeen. You have to assume he wanted to die that day. A lot of people would get upset by that. That was not my nana's response at all. What she did is she went home, she stacked on 20 pounds by eating lard sandwiches, and she went back. Because she's a legend. I mean, she does have diabetes now, but the Welsh language is thriving, so it's all give and take, innit? She's so cool, my nana. My nana is 90 years old, right, and she is pro-legalisation of drugs because, and this is a direct quote, I'd really like to try speed again. Excuse me, Sheila? I don't know if you know this, but back in the 50s and 60s, it was really easy to get prescribed speed by a GP. All you'd have to do was go in and be like, I'm a little bit tired today. And they'd be like, yeah, don't worry, I've got just the thing. And my nana was on this medication in the 60s. I looked it up using its street name, Purple Hearts. Why do I know the street name? Because my nan's a legend. And it turns out this medication my nana was on was half amphetamines and half barbiturates. And I was like, Nana, that sounds crazy. You had 3 kids to look after. You're on this medication. It sounds so dangerous. And she was like, Brie, no. It was amazing. You could get all of your housework done in an hour. And then you had the rest of the day to yourself. And you were on speed. I did that bit a little while ago and I clipped it and I put it on TikTok. And what happened was roughly 1,500 teenagers diagnosed my nana Sheila with ADHD. That's fair. She's so cool. I've got cool grandparents on both sides. So I'm half Indian and I'm half Welsh. A lot of people think that's a... Thank you, one person. Who I'm probably related to, let's be real. People think it's a strange combination. It's really not. There's lots of similarities between those two groups of people. For example, both Indian people and Welsh people absolutely love butter. I get checked for diabetes twice a year. What else? I think it's fair to say that both groups of people have a spicy relationship with the British Empire. And according to English people, our accents are interchangeable. I'm going to tell you a story about my Indian grandparents. So my Indian grandparents moved to the UK in 1967. You might remember that 1967 was the period that the UK was in their "we're sorry" phase. Didn't last very long. And they were told that if they moved here, they would have financial prosperity, political stability, acceptance, tolerance. And they heard all of that and they were like, that sounds lovely. So what they did was they picked up everything they owned, they moved halfway across the world while my grandmother was pregnant, and they landed in the UK. They landed only to find out the hard way that all of that had been a lie. It sucked. It was so bad. They tolerated 7 years of horrible racist nonsense. And after 7 years of it, they were like, do you know what? We're just going to take the advice of all of our local friendly racists, and we're going to go home. 7 years after moving here, my grandparents picked up everything they owned and my 7-year-old mother, and they moved back to the Punjab in India where they're from. Now they land in the Punjab, and my mum, for the very first time, sees the rolling hills and the beautiful scenery. And her response was, no. Where is McDonald's? She hated it. She hated it so much, she started to stage a protest. My mother stopped speaking for 6 months, other than to say the words, I want to go home. And when my grandmother, her mother, would be like, but we are home, she'd be like, don't fuck with me, Surinder. You know what I mean. Went on for 6 months, and after 6 months, they realised she wasn't adjusting, and she probably wasn't going to adjust. And they made the biggest sacrifice I can possibly imagine. And for the 3rd time in their lives, they picked up everything they owned, and they flew back to the UK. Now, isn't that the bleakest story you've ever heard before in your life? They're still here. From that point onwards, anytime a racist would be like, go home, my grandmother would be like, you don't think we haven't tried? I don't want to be here any more than you want me here. For better or for worse, this little shit loves Finder's crispy pancakes and how we live here. I tell that story because I think the message of that story is it really doesn't take very long for a place to become home. And it really, really gets my back up when reform are in places like the valleys, telling the people in the valleys that immigration is the problem. Immigration is the reason we have such a distinct culture in the valleys, and I cannot stand it. Please, 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 especially if you are from the valleys, please talk to everyone you know. Make sure they are registered to vote, especially if they are young. Anyone 16 or over can vote. Please, please engage them now because it is so important. And please, please, please let them know that if they do not vote, or if they do vote reform, I will set my Nana Sheila on them. You've been so amazing. I've been Priya Hall. Bye-bye.
Priya Hall, thank you so much. Isn't she brilliant? Please welcome back to the stage, Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Did you enjoy the first half, Kiri?
Yeah, I really did, yeah. And I had a pizza in the interval.
A whole vegan pizza, just ordered for Kiri. She never stops working, even when she's eating. She never stops. The goodness doesn't stop for 1 minute.
No, even my snacks are activists. So.
We've come to a very exciting part of the show because we're joined now by 2 of the candidates in the upcoming elections. Our first guest represented South West Wales since 2021. And with your help, she'll continue to do so. She's Plaid's spokesperson on social justice. It's Sioned Williams! Yes. And joining her, hoping to stop reform from getting control of Cardiff Penarth, from the Green Party, it's Tessa Marshall. thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr. Can I just put you right? Because the Senedd dissolved last week.
Yes.
It dissolved. And so I'm no longer the MS for South West Wales West. I am now the lead candidate for, wait for it,
Yes.
Brycheiniog Tawenydd.
Oh.
I think I've got the coolest name constituency, Brycheiniog Tawenydd.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
I'm still the spokesperson for social
That
justice.
wasn't on my clipboard, but I'm quite pleased in a way that it wasn't. Because the chances of me saying it correctly were so much less high than the chances of me saying South Wales West, which now I even fucked that up. So, Sioned, you were in the Senedd, but everybody has to resign before the election. That's how it works. So now we need to get you elected again. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Because we know you're the spokesperson on social justice.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little flavour of who you are?
Yes, well, I grew up in the valleys in southeast Wales, come from a mining family. So my mother and father both grew up in poverty. I was the first generation of my family to go to university and became a journalist. And I've heard you speak before about the power of the arts and empathy. And I studied literature in university, in Aberystwyth University, same places as Zach, not at the same time. And I became a journalist. I was a journalist with BBC Wales in Cardiff, alongside our leader, Rhina Piorwerth, who was also a journalist there at the time. And I think I've always been interested in people's stories and walking in other people's shoes. And that's why I think the arts are so important. And one of the things I'm really proud that we're going to do, because Wales has one of the lowest budgets on arts in the whole of Europe. Although, as you heard earlier, we are such a talented musical nation. And, you know, it creates that empathy, doesn't it, that we so need. The word for culture in Welsh is diwylliant, which literally means an angering or an unwilding. And I think we need a bit of that now. So yeah, so I just fell into politics after being a community activist, really. Really interested in people, had children, no childcare at the time, couldn't afford it, so dropped out of the labour market, kept my hand in a little bit with some arts reviewing, a bit of journalism, and just went wild in the community, supporting every campaign I could. And yeah, just kind of was asked then, I was inspired to really get active in Plaid Cymru by Leanne Wood, who was a radical feminist socialist leader. Yeah, was asked to get more active, became more active in elected politics, and was really fortunate then to be elected in 2021 and have the best job ever of speaking on social justice, which is basically why I'm in politics.
Wow. Well done, Sioned. Thank you so much. Tessa, tell us about you.
Yeah, so I'll introduce myself. I'm a 29-year-old woman. I'm deaf, I'm disabled, and I'm queer as well. And I...
Not enough, that's homophobic.
Yeah, thank you. I'm from Cardiff. I grew up in Whitchurch. I've lived all over the place, thank you to the private rental system, which we know and love. What really got me into politics was the fact that I had an abortion when I was 15 years old, and I realised, oh shit, like, actually, if I lived in any part of Ireland, or indeed many other countries around the world, I wouldn't have been able to access that form of healthcare. And so for the last 15 years of my life, I've been a community activist. I've supported campaigns against well, often against things, because I think that's kind of the culture that we've been in for a long time, with austerity, with growing fascism. And, you know, we've had protesters like 40 Days for Life protesting in Cardiff, so counter-protesting them, counter-protesting literal fascists when I was at university in Kent, actually, and then kind of deciding that I needed to know more about devolution. I needed to get more involved in Cardiff and local politics. And I did a master's in international law and politics. And since then, I've been working in policy and public affairs, so focus on the Senedd, looking at the environment, at breast cancer, and at sports. So I've really been active in the community in Cardiff and across Wales, trying to work to make this country a better place, because truly we're struggling here in this country. 1 in 5 species are at risk of extinction in Wales. The most likely person in Wales to live in poverty is a child under the age of 4. And we have some truly horrendous cancer waiting times. We have some truly awful education outcomes. And it actually doesn't have to be like this. It can be better. And I believe the Senedd is the way that we can make things better.
If you win, what are you hoping to achieve?
How long do we have? One of the things that is really close to my heart is making sure that we restore nature in Wales.
Is that what's drawn you to the Green Party?
Partly, yes. I was involved in the Save the Northern Meadows campaign in 2020, which is a campaign that I started to save a local green space. Unfortunately, we weren't successful, and you can actually see cranes on that building site now from many places in Cardiff. But, also the policies around social justice, recognising that environmental justice is social justice. We can't, in terms of the environment, the lack of healthy homes is an environmental injustice. We have some of the most oldest and the mouldiest housing stock in the whole of the UK here in Cardiff.
You don't want to brag, but...
I'm showing off now. And, that is an environmental injustice. So making sure that we use the next Senedd to take action to resolve the environmental injustices, the fact that, we've got 60% of the rivers in Wales are in, quote, unfavourable, so bad condition. All of these things, they're all connected. And the fact that, we can't get a hospital appointment, that's connected to that as well, because we're just not investing in our communities. We're not investing in our environment, and we're not investing in our health. And that is absolutely something that I want to use the Senedd to change.
So if we remove the threat of reform, and this isn't just, I know this whole show is kind of oppositional, but what would be your, let's say, top 2 things you would see as a priority, immediate priority? Sioned, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's very hard to remove that threat.
Yeah.
But I've been campaigning on and leading on the policy development on universal free childcare in Wales. Again, we don't want to brag, but we have some of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, childcare in the whole of the UK. We know what that does to gender equality. We know what that does to those children who are under 4, who have the highest rates of child poverty. And we've got one of the highest rates of child poverty in the UK also. And it's also set to rise in spite of the long overdue lifting of the 2-child cap. We cannot have a nation which has a law, we have a law, believe it or not, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which requires ministers of the Welsh Government to consider future generations when they're making law, when making policy. And yet, so what's going on? So that's my biggest priority. If we get elected, if Plaid Cymru are leading that government, we are going to roll out 20 hours of free childcare for 48 weeks a year for all families. Because at the moment, there's a cliff edge. Somebody described it once as a football with lots of now lumps added onto it, and it just doesn't roll. It doesn't work for families, doesn't work for women, doesn't work for children. So I want to put that right. So that is one of my main priorities. The other thing I've done during my time in the Senedd is chair the cross-party group on human rights. And Carol was talking earlier, wasn't she, about those threats to human rights. And we know that if Farage got in, I'm going to call him Farage as well. If Farage gets in to number 10, then we can kiss goodbye to those laws that protect the most vulnerable and minoritized people in our society, as well as the Welsh language, right? Minority language rights, cultural rights, all kinds of rights. And they do actually apply to Wales. Those powers are not devolved to us, but we can incorporate those UN conventions, those treasured, precious UN conventions into Welsh law. And we were going to bring forward in Plaid Cymru a Human Rights Act Wales law, a bill, in order to protect our citizens.
Tessa, what have you got in the crosshairs for you?
So I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and I'm going to do 3.
Love it.
So the first is housing. Rent freeze immediately, bring the cost of living down straight away. Like, we can't cope. It's outrageous what people are paying for their rent. Then retrofit as well in terms of housing, making sure that our homes are actually fit for human habitation. My brother at the moment is living in a house with single glazed windows and is paying like £700 a month for the privilege. So that is actually driving his costs up in terms of his energy bills. We can't control the international energy market, which is obviously driven by oil and gas. So we need to actually give people in Wales the power to control their energy use themselves, put solar on their roofs, make sure their houses are properly insulated, and make sure their windows are all double glazed. Like, this is just basic stuff that should be happening anyway, and it's not in Wales. The second thing is laying the foundation for the future. We truly are a nation where wealth is just extracted, and I'm so sick of it. Like, we don't have control over policing and justice, we don't have control over broadcasting, we don't have control over research and development, we don't have control over water. Like, all of these areas could actually bring money into Wales and create a really strong foundational economy. And the final thing is challenging reform, challenging the far right whenever they use the Senedd to say something transphobic, homophobic, racist, sexist, because they cannot be allowed to use our national parliament for their hatefulness. It's absolutely vile, and if I'm in the Senedd, I will be directly challenging them at every opportunity.
Thank you, Tessa. And that brings us to the audience questions. So we'd like to welcome back out Carol Vorderman and also the computer with the questions on.
They're really good. We've been going through them. There's some double up, so we're trying to amalgamate them so we're covering everything. But thank you so much. They're great. Here she is. So,
I've been revising. It's so bloody complicated, this system. Honestly.
well, let's talk about that. Let's start by talking about, because we have this these Senedd elections is a new voting system. Give me a cheer if you are confident about how it works. Great. Give me a cheer if you're not quite sure what is happening with your vote and what it counts for. Okay, I think slightly more is because there's more of you than that, and you're being quiet because you don't want to cheer about the one where you say you don't know and look thick. But you're amongst friends, because I'm not totally fucking sure. Does anyone feel like they can absolutely nail the new voting system? So a child could
Sioned. Go to
Sioned, you're nodding.
Okay, so we've had this voting system before, right? So I was elected on this voting system because it was used for the regional vote. We used to have 2 ballot papers because we had 40 constituencies, 40 members that were elected first past the post. So that's the biggest pile of votes. Then we had 20 members, regional members, who were elected on this Dehont proportional system. And basically what it means is the parties, or you can vote for your party. You have 1 ballot paper, you put 1 cross against the party you want to vote for. Yeah. And then all those votes are counted up.
In each super constituency.
In each super constituency. So they are then counted up. And then a formula, a mathematical formula.
I know.
By Mr. Dehont.
I feel I need a whiteboard and a Sharpie. That's what I need.
But basically, so say now, you know, all the parties have these votes, and the party with the biggest amount of votes, they get the first member. And there are 6 members.
Out of 6,
out of 6.
6, yeah.
And then that you do 1 plus 1, and then you halve the number of votes, right?
Yeah.
And then So they've got one, but you give it another one, and then you divide their number of votes by 2.
My child
you
is
move
lost.
on, and you see who's got the biggest amount of votes then. And so it goes on and on until 6 are elected. But it basically means that it better reflects how everybody votes, because you can get elected on first past the post with 30%. So 70% of the votes cast may not be for the victor. So it's absolutely unfair. And so this isn't exactly what we wanted in Plaid Cymru. We wanted STV, which is far more proportional. But the Labour Party, we had to have 2/3 of the Senedd to get this through, to get this Senedd reform through. Labour Party thought that this, because this does favour larger parties, and at the time,
of course, they were the
thought
largest
they'd
party.
they'd be one of the larger parties. So of course, it's come back to bite them on the bum now.
So it could be that any of the smaller parties who don't get anything around 12, 13, 14% might end up with no seats.
Yeah.
And am I correct?
Yes, but it also means that it's very important that if you support a smaller party, like the Greens perhaps, you do vote for them because it's proportional, and there's that opportunity to get that 6th seat in many, many constituencies for the smallest party.
So it's not a wasted vote. No. Yeah. Thank you, Elaine, for that question.
Because it can, and this is important, because people think PR, and I love proportional representation, but there are all these different systems, as you rightly said, that you think out of 100% of the votes, that if you get 40% of the vote, you get 40% of the seats. That isn't exactly how it is. The latest, if I may just read this out using this system, the latest YouGov prediction, where's it gone now, said that Plaid would get 43 seats, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Plaid on 43, Reform on 30, Labour on 12, and the Greens on 10. Using this system. That is the current prediction.
Let's see if we can change that.
But the Greens need to get a certain percentage in order to be in there to play the game, basically.
And the further those 5th and 6th seats become cheaper, so the margins become very, very small. So a couple of hundred votes by the end of that system can make the difference. And when you think those 16 constituencies, number 5 and 6 seat, that could add up to 32 seats, right? So that could be the difference between government and not being government.
I'm just concerned that we might only have time for one question if we keep going. Just because we have to get out of the theatre. So I'm just going to say, doo-doo, 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 boom!
Do you know how that was written?
No.
So Alan Hawkshaw, who wrote
but it's not one of the questions
music
either here, Carol.
back in 1982. No, it's interesting because he'd forgotten that he had to write it for this new show called Countdown, for this new channel called Channel 4. And he was rung up by the head of music at Yorkshire Television. And he said, Alan, you haven't given us the music. So he literally wrote it on the toilet. And it was do-do, do-do, do-do-do-do.
Men can get away with anything, can't they?
That's where the pin
we're
comes
going to
from.
go quite fast on the rest of these because we've got 130 questions and now no minutes. So how do we...
Can I just quickly, this one, it says, not a question but a small plug. YMCA Cardiff's giving any under 25-year-old who registers to vote Ben & Jerry's ice cream on the 20th of April. So there you go. There's an incentive. Now, Kat's asked, what are the top 3 facts to try and convince someone not to vote reform? A lot of people have asked, what is a practical thing we can say to people, whether you're knocking on doors or speaking to people you know? Speed round. Go, Tessa.
Nigel Farage is literally never in Parliament, and I'm willing to put money on the reform not turning up to the Senedd either.
Great. Sioned?
Well, I'm going to get a bit more serious. I mean, you know, we talk about all the awful stuff. Carol illustrated all that awful stuff that we can expect if reform get into power. There's a real threat here to Wales, and not just to the values that we hold dear as feminists and as socialists, but also as, as a nationalist. We could lose our Senedd. Yeah. You know, they could absolutely undermine the Senedd. So there's a bigger fight here in a way, because Farage isn't going to do away with Westminster or Parliament. They could, the abolishers, as we used to be, abolish the Welsh Assembly Party in the last... You
said it.
In the last election. They've disappeared now. I wonder where they've gone. You know, they may not all be abolishers in reform, but all of the abolishers are in reform, and they would absolutely be able to get rid of our parliament. So that our voice, our nation, our culture, our polity is at stake.
How would you do?
Vic, go on.
I would say
Newsflash,
NHS.
newsflash, Orban's been ousted after 16 years of power in Hungary.
Yes!
The far right is not a foregone conclusion. You can fight and you can get them out.
Yes! People power, turn up to vote. That's what they did. Fantastic.
Vicky, chwarae teg, fair play, this does feel like it's aimed at me and I respect that. How do you stop the whole the other side are idiots attitudes? It just breeds division. I concur, but I would like to show my working here. One of the reasons why we're sat on this stage is you and I were talking, and you and I as well. And this isn't to convince you people in the room to vote Green or Plaid. Chances are you're probably doing it. Chances are you're not a Reform voter in this room. This, for me, was about trying to galvanise people to get out there, like I saw in my constituency, knock on doors if you are able to, if you have the time. If you bought a ticket to this, maybe you've got the money. If you haven't got the time, maybe you can donate to one of these parties. We can't be passive. When we're passive, when the vote turnout is low, they win. When we are active. So I'm apologies if you felt that I was being divisive. I don't actually give a shit. But I'm only messing. But the reason I'm doing this is because I don't have the time. This is one of the things I can do. So me showing up here is a thing that I think I can do, which is to try and get us all out there.
And can I just say, I mean, I'm always the voice for Build a Bridge, because I do think we need to build bridges, and people are usually acting from a place of fear or hurt or worry or concern for themselves. I wrote a book called 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have, and the final chapter is about how to talk to people. It's all about division and fragmentation, and it's just come out on paperback. That could be helpful to some of you. It's important that we do ask questions. I had someone troll me recently, and I saw his page, and I thought, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy. So I DM'd him and said, just out of interest, why did you say that? Because you don't seem like that kind of guy. And he said, I'm not normally. It's a bit out of character. And we got talking politically. We had a lot more in common. And then he said to me, do you know what? I used to be quite left-wing, and I've really kind of fought, you know, he sort of like this part of the internet. And he said, do you have any more progressive left-wing journalists I could follow? I think I need to get back into sort of seeing a more broader view. And that just came out of me going, you don't seem like the type. I'm just curious, rather than going, you're an asshole. So I think those things can work. More questions?
Well, it leads on to what Gemma was saying. How can we combat so much online outside interference / algorithms by the far right that preys on people? Carol, have you got views on that?
Well, there is a way of combating it, because we had it before the last election. All the likes, all the comments, all the storying on Instagram or on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I don't know, anyone here on Twitter? No, cesspit. But literally everything that you do supports people. And I talked to lovely Hannah Spencer, who was with you, a fair bit. And she found that, you know, when the Daily Mail were attacking her, for instance, quite vehemently, even about what she wears. And I mean, really, bloody hell, they're awful. Poison on our society, the Daily Mail. But all of those messages matter. People read them. The people that you want to do well, you know, whether it be you, Tessa, or you, Sioned, you know, it matters, doesn't it? And it really, really helps. Even if it's just liking something and repeating it somewhere else, it helps, does it not? Yeah, that's what I would say. That's how you fight.
What
the
about you,
algorithm.
Tessa?
I mean, I would say the most important thing is to sort of go out into your community. Most of the time when you're door knocking, when you're speaking to people out at events or just, you know, kind of out and about in the park, people are not as aggressive as they are online. And truly, like, it's quite scary to go out and do the door knocking when you're literally getting that barrage of hate. I had a little taste of what Hannah had the other day when one of my videos kind of took off. And on the back of that, I actually had a death threat. And I'm like, this random person just literally in my comments, you know? And it's like, actually, they're trying to intimidate us and they're trying to scare us by using bots most of the time. But there are real people in that. I actually, know my uncle was one of those people who was in Hannah's comments, and I messaged him and I said, she's not married to a millionaire. And he said, oh, don't talk to me about politics. And I was like, okay, Steve. But yeah, I'm definitely going out, speaking to people in your community, because it's not as bad as you think.
Shauna?
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, it is speaking to people. I've had on the doors, I've been knocking doors now for nearly a year, and people will repeat the stuff you see on Facebook, all the lazy, stereotypical, awful stuff about anti-politics stuff, anti-woke stuff, anti-everything that I hold dear. And if you talk to them and try and interrogate their argument a little bit, they will come round. I remember a woman on the door in Neath the other day said to me, oh, you're all the same. You're all got your all pigs in the trough, all in it for the money. And I said, well, we do. And do you know what we do? And she said, oh, you're only there 2 days a week, and you don't do anything. And so I just started to say, well, I can tell you I was a member in the Senate, and this is what I do, blah, 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 blah. And he said about all the work I do in the community, helping people with, come to me for help, all the stuff. We pass laws, we scrutinise this, we blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, I don't mean you, love. You seem really nice. And I'm sure, we had a nice conversation afterwards about the things. And, it came back to what you were saying, really, Deborah. It's about, there's no coincidence that Farage went to Port Talbot and he went to Merthyr. Those people have been let down by the political system. So we mustn't just say, oh, you know what, they're all thick and they don't know what they're doing. It really is about making sure that we do talk to them, we do empathise with their situation. But as you were saying earlier, say, reform are not your friends.
Yeah, never.
I totally agree, but honestly, the guy I know is thick. I am going to keep mentioning that. I think it's really good advice there about misinformation. There's an anonymous question here. How then do you encourage people who are incredibly disenfranchised or who aren't interested in politics? How do you change hearts and minds there, Tessa?
It's a huge question because, I think everyone is different and, everyone's experiences are different. I know Zoe in Hackney, another brilliant Green activist who is campaigning to be the mayor of Hackney, spoke to someone on the doorstep who just didn't even want to take a leaflet because she was just like, well, politics doesn't do anything for me. And that is what we need to change. We need to make politics do stuff for people again. People only know austerity. People only know underinvestment and being underserved, waiting weeks and weeks just for a hospital appointment, not being able to afford their bills. Actually, we can show with this Senedd, with this election, politics can do stuff. Politics can have an impact, actually. And actually, we know that this Senedd can go further. The Senedd actually has the powers to put rent controls in place. It actually has the powers to do £1 buses. It has the power to insulate your homes. And by showing that politics has the power to make change, we can help people become engaged with politics again. Because, one thing that I like to say is, people will vote on, X Factor, or I'm a celeb, because they think it'll make a difference, And, so it's like, why don't you vote in
So you're going to do I'm a celeb, is that what you're saying?
Maybe in a few years.
Sioned, what do you think? For people who just totally it's not me, it's left me behind.
I think, again, when you just have conversations with people and say, well, are you happy with the amount of rent you're paying? Are you happy with your energy bills? What are you finding difficult in your life? People are worried about educational standards in Wales. People are worried about, I live in the Swansea Valley. Many people work in the university there. My husband works in the university. There's huge redundancies in higher education. We lose that. We lose so much in Wales. So when you start talking to people about this, recognising that they haven't got the headspace to be reading every policy document and report and research that comes out, when you explain it in terms of their lives, in terms of their jobs, in terms of their opportunity, in terms of the fact that their kid can't go to a birthday party because they can't afford a present, right, and how that makes them feel as a parent, then, they understand politics can change this. And, I'm proud to say in the last Senedd, Plaid Cymru, through negotiation with Labour, because they needed the numbers, we brought in free school meals for primary school children. It's made a massive difference.
And that's politics. I'm getting the wind up from Stuart. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's contributed. Carol, do you have a final word there?
Well, I just want to say, because there's mainly women here, hello gentlemen as well, but I get out and about in Bristol all the time, and the one thing that changed, the young girls, was a hairdresser or someone doing your nails or whatever, they're going, oh, well, I'm not really interested, was when I said that James Orr, who is the head of policy for reform, if reform get in, if you haven't got a kid, you're going to pay more tax. Childless women are going to pay more tax. And suddenly it's like, what? What do you mean, Carol? I said, that is exactly it. And I showed them the article, and I showed them this. And I think it's about... Because politics is literally everything.
Yeah.
It is literally every bloody thing. It's where you have your baby, what happens to your baby. Do you get pregnant? Can you have an abortion? Look at what's happened in America. Yeah. All the disgusting stuff that is happening, particularly against women in America. And if you choose wrongly, believe me, old Poundland Trump Farage will be repeating everything that they are doing in America. We really will.
Can I have a big round of applause for Charlotte Williams, Tessa Marshall, Kiri Pritchard-McLean, Carol Vorderman, Mared, Priya Hall. Please meet Zainab Akbar up the back, because you will be able to help her knock on doors, whatever your constituency is, wherever you are. See whatever the party you support is, look into tactical voting, and whatever party you support, whether that be Plaid, whether that be the Greens, whether that be Labour, whether that be the Lib Dems, whether that be another party of your choice that you feel is going to... Why are you saying you don't have Lib Dems here? Why are you saying that? No? Okay.
Don't go any further.
No. Whether that be reform. No, not whether that be reform. You just get involved in some way, shape or form, however that could be. That could be donating £5, it could be giving an hour of your time, it could be giving up an afternoon, it could be taking your kids to find out what's going on. But just get involved. It could even be visiting people in your WhatsApp groups and saying, hey, how are you going to vote? Because this concerns me. Talking to relatives. There's lots and lots of older people who absolutely hate reform, and ask them, can they talk to people their own age? So let's not write off old people and go, oh, they're all going to be voting like this. They're not. There's plenty of people here tonight who are over 65 who care deeply about this stuff, and we've got to find ways of building those bridges. You have been absolutely incredible. You're a wonderful, wonderful audience. Thank you so much for coming out. We have a real treat for you in store to close this show. I am extremely excited to welcome to the stage now the Cardiff Superchoir.
Tonight I'm gonna have myself a real good time. I feel alive, and the world's turning inside out, yeah, and floating around in ecstasy. So don't stop me now. Don't stop.
have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Kiri Pritchard-McLean, and our very special guests, Priya Hall, Sioned Williams, Tessa Marshall, and Carol Vorderman, with music from Mared and Cardiff Superchoir. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge. The producer was Tom Salinsky for the Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Gina Dicio, Stuart Arnold, Ned Sedgwick, Zainab Mohammed, our team at UTA, and everyone at New Cardiff Theatre, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.